coming back. That's a plus. So where do we get to? Oh yeah, the third of my examples. This is really good if you're starting out. This is knowledge that's very useful because it's very doable, and it's the biggest difficulty with production is cost. And bands starting out usually are totally in debt to start with. This is the Thompson twins, 1980 something to 1980 something else. You'll not see truss in this. Well, maybe a little stick here or there. Oh, I did automate all this. Okay, this is how it's built. This is ordinary aluminum scaffolding from construction. It's, well, I call it, oh, here it's called upright scaffolding. That's a particular brand, but it's snapped together, there's no tools required. And you can build them pretty high. I built a whole set out of this, and then we put lights on it. There's still no truss. Now you see hanging high, this is the afternoon hanging, where's that little pointer thing? There we go. Up here is actually hauled up high, so we still got space to work. This is a back white scrim, nice and easy. That's a real simple thing. We've also got two side ones, one there and there's another one here. And they would be flown in. So what's happening here is they've brought all the scaffolding and they're just assembling it. And it is hook. Each piece has got a hook on the end, and it's they're snap braces. They're really simple. The only thing that's custom built is this very steep staircase. I'll never do that again. These are 1 foot treads with a 1 foot rise. They're almost impossible to gracefully go. So that's quite a rise. Huh? So yeah, I've gone back to the normal staircase heights of about 7 or 8 inches. So that was the only custom bit. This is all rental. In the end, we bought it because the Thompson twins were very clever people. They actually said to me when they hired me, we're a pop band, we have one hit album, we plan to make 2 more, it'll take 1,000 days, and that's it. So we start planning the goodbye party now. And they kept to their word. The whole theory is if they can get a 4th album out in that 3-year period, then they've got a 4th album out. But if they go over the 3-year period, they're going to have to promote themselves, and that's spending money on maintaining your fame. Be happy you had 3 years in the spotlight and then go away. That was what they said. That's what they did. And to be honest, that's what's happened. I've seen happen all along ever since. So they didn't have much money. So we did have enough to, basically rent this equipment. Let's move on here. And we did have enough money to purchase black bag drapes. The drapes were made, they're very simple. It's basically one side, a front, and another side, tied on at the top with a little chain in the bottom of the ordinary drapes. They're not much more than legs. They were just the custom made because there was a height involvement, obviously width and depth. And they're 3 towers. This is a platform, and they are all locked together, which gave them quite a lot of stability. This is just a white screen. Behind that white screen, there are 2 keyboard players. They looked like they were making pizza at half the time, but that was okay. They weren't terribly overlit. They did have little photographic lamps, like there's one there. The photographic lamp trick's really good. It means you get a key light. It does well. It's got barn doors. It's really focusable, and it kind of fits in. There's so much lighting equipment on this stage, it just disappears amongst the clutter. There's a bank of par lamps. Here's a bank of more par lights. This one here, and they all had special moments. Later, they could join in with, once they've been used as a special, they could join in with something else. This one, I think, was colored in red and amber. This one was blue and green, alternate colors. And this one here, I think, is just white. There was a corresponding one over here. Instruments on the floor, but photographic lamps in amongst it all. Up here is a percussion frame, and I'll show you where that came from. Behind this tower is another platform, and that just used to hide behind this tower and wheel on. So these are the Mark I Vari-Lights. That's a photographic lamp for a little gag that happened there. It was one of the crew dressed up as a detective with his hat, looking like Dick Tracy, reading a newspaper. And the song was something, watching the detective. No, we are the detectives, or something like that. In here this is actually a little gag. Behind on the tower is a black RP screen, and built into this black bag is actually a a window of black gauze on front of a black RP screen is invisible until I light the object inside. We'll see that in a moment. So that's pretty much it. The drape's now been brought in. This is in a theatre that actually had 4 rigging points on winches, so we were lucky to get that up like that. Normally, in a bad day, we'd have literally climbing rope and we'd just get it over something up there, and there was a lot of throwing. And anyway, this is a very affordable at the time. The bank could just barely afford it. Footlights, little strip lights of 4 colors of red, blue, green, and amber. And they were just a whole bunch of them under the monitors across the front. So strip lights, some odd par lights that really didn't illuminate much. They were kind of events more. Photographic lamps which lit all the people all the time. Here's the reverse shot. See down here, these are just 4-cell sights. I mean, this is real old technology. It still exists. It's made of steel. It's heavy. It's ugly. It eats gel. Here's the reverse shot of there. This is where the percussion frame would be. This is where it hid. There's a trap door. That's how the girl would get Lana Curry. There's a ladder. She'd pop up through the trap door. This would get wheeled on. She'd come out and play. Then she'd exit this way. Right here is a trap door, and that's where Tom Bailey, the principal artist, would come up through right at the very beginning. And we had a follow spot literally underneath the ladder. Just a blast of light, and he came up. That was the only time we used that spotlight. But we used a lot of the people to do the good fun stuff. Oh, here's a gadget. This is called tubular ripple. You can look this one up. This produces a really beautiful water effect. It's called tubular ripple. I think, just look that up. It's an effect. And all it is a revolving tube with little slots cut in it, and the light can only get out through the tube. So it has to go into the tube through one slot, through the tube, and out of the tube on the other side. And these slots are passing each other, so they're eclipsing each other. And that produces this really beautiful water reflection effect. It looks like water on the wall of the house at sunset with a perfectly still swimming pool. You get that nice. Anyway, that's tubular ripple. You can still get them actually, but it's a real old effect, 1933. So you can actually say to yourself, hey, this is so old, it's new. And I bet you a lot of people say, what is that effect? It's a real good one. And because it's endless, perpetual, like water is, you can leave it up forever. It's actually quite faint. So I always used to introduce it at the beginning. Here we go to our total blue out, not blackout. And I'd bring those on first, and then the rest of the lighting comes on, and they become less apparent because they're disappearing in all the brighter lighting in front of it. And then when you finish, you fade to your blue out, and there they still are. Or you could go to blackout because there's some light that you're producing and you've still got control of it. So anyway, there they are putting up, this is the RP screen they're putting in, and it's just strapped on with little rubber bungees and a hook. Nothing exceptional. Yeah, drum riser, the pizza place over here. It was really, really simple, all rental. They eventually bought it because it is actually quite affordable. And the advantage of getting it purchased was the stuff that we rented sometimes had concrete and plaster on it, and we had to wire brush it all off. And, yeah, that's rental from building supplies. So this is it, finished, a final thing. Here's the Mark I Very Light console. That's the spare. We kept it back there because it was good for technical, and if everything went wrong, I could run back there and do that. Molfe is here. This is a Molfe. You see this little A-frame? It's just made out of pipe and couplers you get from Tractor Supply. It's farm equipment. It's farm equipment because it's just how you build fences. There's a little T-piece there for that cross brace, T-piece, and that's a little T-piece there. And that's the Molfe, that's the Mark I Verilight. And the pan is hung horizontal, where the control pan is vertical. That's a different effect when you hang a lamp this way. And then it's actually quite difficult to focus because you've got to use pan and tilt. So that kind of produces a different movement effect from this one here. Orientation of the control pan is, yeah, it's a consideration. You don't have to hang them flat or flat on the floor. What else is in here? Yes, so there's a moving light there, there's a moving light there, there's a Molfe there. That's a tiny little photographic lamp for this area here. She's got a keyboard and a marimba, so that would light her. There's the same on the other side. So most of the most of the performers are lit with photographically. And you only actually have to light people from one side for this kind of thing, because there's a lot of other light on stage as well. Well, not a lot. There is no truss. That is such a huge saving in trucking. All of this would fit into one of those, you remember the little scenery cart? One of those. It's about 6 foot high, it's 4 foot wide, and it's 8 foot long. And you can get pretty much all of this scenery stuff into it. The fabric just goes into bags, and that all went to a flight case. On the aircraft landing, the lights, the power lamps, they came in another little rack, 8x4 with rails. And so, but we didn't have truss. I still do. Truss is really such a waste of truck space. You're actually shipping a lot of air, and that's expensive, that air, because of all the space. Truss just takes up a lot of room. But having said that, if you can do it, if you can afford truss is great, because you can get people who climb across it, so you can do stuff in the air. But nowadays with modern lighting, and there's a lot of it, you don't even need to climb. But this is stuff that you can do in your high school, you can do with your local band, the band that's about to make your entire fortune. Thank you, Thompson Twins. They really did make a big difference to my life. So this was a progressive thing. After this is actually a workshop I used to have in England, out in the countryside. Anyway, we were rebuilding it, and now you'll see there's a door frame in here. This is still stock stuff. And we started using rigid panels. Now they can afford stuff, so we've got more stuff, more dollars. But these are 8x4 panels, Luan back, an aluminum frame, and that is ordinary garage roofing material, corrugated, cheap and cheerful. If it comes from building supplies, it really is cheap. If it comes from a theatrical production company, it's really expensive. So stick to the building supply companies. They're good. I'm sorry?
Is this in your backyard?
This used to be my backyard in England. And that's not my house. My house is about 6 miles that way. I just used, this is an old 1905 gas station, and they used to just pour it, you know, and before the First World War, they poured it out of cans, and they maybe had 2 cars a week. It was very progressive, this building. It was just a big storeroom I got for nothing. So the staircase thing, they wanted stairs, but I always hate the idea of stairs to nowhere, because when you get to the top, you turn around and you have to come down again. So we built these. There were 2 towers. This is just one. And then we cut into this material. We cut holes, because all the speaker equipment is behind. This is the reverse view. Now, everybody plays to a track nowadays. They always have choruses and so on. Well, in these days, it was really taboo. So this was a secret room where they had all their tape players in. Literally, it was a secret room. We put all the flight cases in, covered it up, and Steve Dewey, the sound engineer, who lives here in Los Angeles, actually, he runs a company called Machine Head. He would be in there, and it was really secret because they had all the tracks. And yeah, this is before Milli Vanilli. And then we put, this is where all the back line was, and we cut out literally just a circular cutout, and then we put in gauze, shark's tooth gauze fabric, and then we'd paint something on the front or hide it some way. So there it is. That's the completed one of 2, and they were set at angles to each other. And as I say, I don't like staircases to nowhere. I took that photograph because I could, and ta-da! There's a ladder all the way up through the towers, and that's already the rental snap-on equipment. The towers come with it. You get to the top, burst through the doors, and it was always a downway. It was an entrance, and a high entrance is really unusual. Theatre's all about the drama. A good theatre is, you'll see, a farce, for example, is all entrances and exits. And some of the exits are still on stage. They hide under the bed. That's actually an exit. They hide in the trunk, the wardrobe. Or they disappear through the wardrobe, and actually that disappears behind the set, and they can come in somewhere else. But the left and right exits, entrances and exits are so obvious. Try and build new entrances on stage. So this is how it worked. Okay, here's, oh dang, how do I do this? This is on some kind of silly automated thing. If I go backwards, it should stay. There we go. Stop. This actually is a band shell, not mine. It just happened to be there. So instead of putting our scrims up, we just put all the lighting up and lit out the band shell. You might notice that as this is phase 2, the stairs, steep stairs are still there. But we've now changed this material to white because the black was, well, I like the white because we used to, in this case it's all white, but we could throw all sorts of light show patterns, gobos and, you know, eye candy stuff all over there. But this thing here is a real cheap and simple gag. This song was about work, not my favorite subject. And the character in there was actually the tour manager, and he had 4 positions, and he's holding a pickaxe. Actually, it's a wooden piece of wood cut like a pickaxe. And his first position, second position, third position, and then he had to stand, and that's the position he's in now. And then but he's not standing like he's actually standing like this. He's doing it like an Egyptian, because we're not interested in how he's doing it. We're interested in how he looks. So that is a black screen behind a black gauze, cut into a black box, and behind that is just, I think I might have even used a photographic lamp, but there's a red light, and it used to come on 1, 2, 3, 4. So it was musically on and off, and he had to, in the blackout, had to change to his second, third, and fourth position. A later time, when we were in a very big arena, we had all the big white scrims up, and I had a 10K Brute, big old Fresnel film light, and we put it behind the gear, and he then stood in front of it, and we just cast shadows up on the back, and they were like 35-foot high images of people with pickaxes. As I say, it was a song about work. But still, no trusses. You see how the scenery is holding it all up? Later, much later, I must stop automating things. This is what happens with automated lighting too. Later we had the privilege of playing with our ground support system at the Hollywood Bowl. And they, in those days, they had these great big balls hanging in the roof. And everybody said, oh, you're going to hate the Hollywood Bowl. You can't hang anything. I don't hang anything. I stand it all on the floor, the guaranteed ground. So we just had a brilliant day, and there are all these huge spheres above. It was to break up the acoustic property of a megaphone, which the bowl is, because once they amplified it, they didn't need the megaphone for the orchestras. And there were just objects. They're beautiful to light. So this was my extended next idea. This is phase 3 of the Thompson Twins, in fact, year 3. The towers are still here. You might notice there's an extra one here. There's the little one, there's the medium, and that used to be the tall one. There's this really tall one here. And I put down across the back a camera track, actually 2 tracks. And we put regular wheels that come with this, but I changed the wheels a bit to like nice skateboard wheels, so they'd lock on the camera track. And just a couple of people pushed the whole thing across stage. No motors, no programming. It was move it to that mark now. And they didn't even have to say move it to that mark now. They knew exactly when to do it. It took only 2 times. So that kind of came in, and it moved all the way over to here. This was a white tower, I seem to remember. This is all white. That was white, that's black, and that's black. So this is the extension, but the big deal was these spheres. And I had these made, and they're just inflatables. And the sizes are 5 meters, 3 meters, and 2 meters. 5 meters is just over 18 feet. And they all came out of 3 flight cases, I'd say about 6 foot long, about 3 foot wide, and no more than 3 foot high. And that included the fans, which are built into them. Inflatables are really clever. There's only one thing wrong with inflatables: you can never get a real sharp edge. Well, you can. Some companies do, but that makes it difficult because you have to control one side with the other side. So inside's all this lattice work and little stringers of thread holding it all in. If you're interested in inflatables, look up Aerostar. They're somewhere up in Montana. Their main business is actually making decoys for the military, like inflatable airplanes that they park out on runways, and so when the satellite comes over, it looks like you've got a really big squadron of airplanes, but they're just inflatables. They do dummy tanks too. So anyway, the inflatables were really good. I did actually put a truss up at this point. We, in fact, put a truss, 2 trusses up with 2-dimensional, 2-chord truss, just to hang these on. And while we had it up there, these are those, you see the little discs there? Those are the right back at the beginning in the history lesson. those are the cloud projectors, and they used to shine all over there. But again, objects to illuminate, really nice, really simple, quite affordable, really, because it saves so much money on transportation, space, and wow, it's a huge result. Yeah, that was it. Okay, Thompson twins. So you can do all of that. You see how that was done? Look at industry as opposed to the lighting rental company. You'll find all sorts of things that wow, look at things sideways. Like a fluorescent tube, everyone would describe it as that. Try that. Fluorescent tubes on end are actually rather nice. It's the change in architecture, and lighting really can become part of that. It's linear, it has a line, it has a shape. Utilize the shape. Earlier example of using light in shape is that Ferris wheel kind of thing I built.